What's up, everybody? Teague from Battle City Games, back with another post-Battle of Legends deck profile. Today we're going to be taking a look at another deck that got support in this set, a deck that's been around since Grand Creators, been played as an engine, mixed with some different stuff, but was kind of missing some consistency pieces, some extenders, and sometimes a payoff for your inboard. And the new support we got in Battles of Legend definitely helped out, and that deck is going to be Punk. This is one of my favorite kind of archetypes that really hasn't seen a lot of play recently. I think it's very cool thematically, and it does a lot of fun things in terms of interactions, game state, the kind of boards that it puts up. So we're going to be taking a look at the deck today. Today we are taking a look at a Fiendsmith variant of Punk. You could play this deck pure, but I think it's the type of deck that benefits from having a supplementary engine with it, something to help draw out some of your opponent's interactions before you commit to the Punk cards. And Fiendsmith is just such a powerful engine on its own. It also helps insulate you from nib prior to your Punk lines, which I think is great as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So starting off with the brand new monster for the main deck, triple copies of No Punk Rising Scale. This card is amazing. It has 3 separate effects, which always makes a card good typically if it has 3 effects on it. And each one of them is powerful and allows you to have more extenders and get into your plays more. So going over the card real quick, first effect, it can special summon itself from hand by banishing a Punk card from your hand or graveyard. Notice I said Punk card, so you can technically banish your traps or your spells depending on what you choose to play. But you can of course also banish Punk monsters as well. So it special summons itself out. It's a level 8 on summon. It does let you summon a non-level 8 Punk monster from either your graveyard or deck, or you can add the card to hand. I don't find myself doing that too often, but it is an option depending on the game state, what you need to do. So just keep that in mind. But being able to summon out your Sharakusai, your Zayaman, whatever the case may be, is really powerful. And also being able to get them back from grave does help your grind game. Previously, summoning back from grave for some of your level 3s wasn't something the deck could really do all that well outside of some weird Deer Note plays. So having such easy ability to pick them back up from grave and reuse powerful effects like Sharakusai is really great. And then it does have an on-field effect as well. When your opponent's monster with 2500 or more attack activates an effect on the field, quick effect, you can change that monster to face down defense position. It's important to note that is a non-targeting effect, so while it is a little bit limiting in the fact that it's got to be a pretty powerful monster on board activating the effect, non-targeting is great, does help you get around cards like Desiree. Basically it always keeps Desiree in check from being able to negate any of your cards, because you just flip the Desiree face down, if the equips fall off, and so the effect to negate would fizzle. It can also be good against stuff like Mitsurugi Murakumo, and some other powerful boss monsters your opponent may put on board. Detonator, for example, yes, they would get to chain a destruction effect, but it would at least put the Detonator face down so they can continue to use the destruction effect for the rest of the turn. So overall, very powerful card. Being able to act as that extender is really great. The amount of times that I find myself baiting out all of my opponent's interactions and then following it up at the very end with a scale to still go full combo. This card is just absolutely amazing. Moving on from there, we do have triple copies of Zayaman. This card is the searcher of the deck. It's kind of always been the card that in larger Punk engines at least has always been a 3 of, just being able to pay 6, grab any Punk card, especially again with Rising Scale. You can go Zayaman, pay 6, grab Rising Scale, and then link Zayaman off to get her to graveyard to immediately banish for that Rising Scale. So Zayaman is 1 card combo all on her own, which is great. And then for another 3 of, we are on Triple Foxy Tune, just being another essentially emergency teleport for the deck. Giving you another way to extend outside of a normal summon is great, which is why we want those 3 copies. And since we do have the Fiendsmith engine in here, sometimes we'll be able to discard something like a Dead Paradise with Foxy Tune in order to mitigate that cost of having to send another card when you activate her effect. Also, if you have dead hand traps going first, it doesn't hurt as much to send those off of her effect as well. But definitely want 3, just another extender that lets you play through disruptions. From there, we are on double copies of Ogre Dance. This is a card that I've gone back and forth between 2 and 3 copies of, and I wouldn't tell you that you were wrong if you did choose to go with 3 copies. The only reason I'm on 2, 1, I wanted to keep this at a 40 card deck. If I did bump the card count up, Ogre Dance would probably be one of the first cards I was adding in. But the second reason is she does play very hard into Droll. This deck can surprisingly play decently under Droll, but if you start out with Ogre Dance to search like a Zayaman and you get Drolled, it does drastically hinder your turn in a scenario like that. So we do want to mitigate it, but she is a great consistency piece, so I do want to play her at 2 copies for that. And like I said, I don't think you would necessarily be wrong to play 3, but I would really want to keep this deck at 40 cards for consistency purposes. From there, we do have a few one-ofs. 1 Sharakusai, just the ability to fusion summon into our Carp, and then also the quick synchro on our opponent's turn. Card's always been integral to the Punk strategy, but not a card you really want to play at more than 1, especially in a build like this that's playing a supplementary engine, but 1 copy is great. We have the 1 Deer Note. Again, in pure builds, you might bump this up to 2, but in a build playing a supplementary engine, 1 is perfectly fine. Again, especially since it's recyclable from a graveyard now with scale, but an extremely powerful card, and one that we do want to get into rotation and have access to. And then 1 copy of Wagon to search for Field Spell. Field Spell itself is just such a powerful card, netting you 1 to 2 draws, typically on your turn, as well as maybe a draw on your opponent's turn, and also giving you another extension by being able to special summon a Punk from hand. And Wagon's effect when a Punk card is targeted to just draw you a card can come up as well, because if your opponent wants to prevent you from getting a Field Spell by, say, imperming Wagon, you can chain Wagon, draw a card, and you are at least netting some advantage that way. So overall, solid card. Now, before we move any further, I do want to talk about a notable absence from the deck. I am not playing Madam Spider or a trap card. The reason for that is, 1, we are playing with Fiendsmith engine, so we do have Paradise in here that you'll see later, which is already a potential brick going second. I didn't want to up that by not only playing the Punk Trap as a second brick, but Madam Spider, which isn't really a card you want to open either, would be a third brick we'd be adding in. So I didn't want to do that. And then typically, she is just the weakest of the Punk cards that you can draw going second. Again, Wagon can net you a card if your opponent targets it when you're playing into a board. He gets you the Field Spell, which allows you additional extension for the turn when you're trying to play into a board, whereas Spider typically is only getting you a trap, which isn't going to be usable until the next turn when it goes back to your opponent. So it requires you to be able to play through their board before you're getting that value. And I just don't think in the current format that we can afford to have those 2 additional bricks in the deck. I was originally playing and testing with them in the deck. I took them out, and my ability to play going second has increased because of that, because now instead of drawing those cards, I'm drawing hand traps in those spots instead. I can see where some people do like to keep her in the deck, but I think that in the main deck at least, and in a mixed variant like this, she's not necessary anymore. I will say I do sideboard her in this build. I side her in for going first along with the trap, because she is, adding the trap to your inboard is another powerful piece of interaction when you're going first. So I do think she's worth it then, but I would rather have her in the board and only bring her in when I'm going first, when I know that I can actually get to her through combo and set up that additional disruption. So that's why you won't see Madam Spider in here. But moving into the Fiendsmith engine now. Triple Engraver, you just want to start with your Fiendsmith engine if possible. Like I mentioned in the intro, it's going to bait out hand traps for us, bait out interactions before we get to our Punk cards, and also set up a Caesar so that we don't have to worry about something like Nib going into the Punk combo. And then also just playing the grind game, just having the Fiendsmith cards in graveyard again once you have that set up in grave, if you top deck something like an emergency teleport or a rising scale, being able to again go with those Fiendsmith cards first, bait out whatever interaction you have, and then go into the punk side to really punish your opponent is great. One copy of Lacrima, that's all you need. And the one copy of Lurie. I do love the art, but again, all you need for the Fiendsmith engine. And real quick, again, briefly, I know I'm pausing a lot in this video, but I kind of want to explain my thought process for y'all who may be interested in why I chose to build the deck the way I did. One of the reasons I think the Punk and Fiendsmith stuff works well together, because we have a Rising Scale now, is any combination of a Punk normal summon like Xeamin or Wagon, plus an emergency teleport or a Foxy Tune, gets you 2 bodies on board to link into Closed Moon to go Fiendsmith combo, while also getting you the Rising Scale through Xeamin, so that you can go full Fiendsmith combo and then go full Punk combo afterwards. Previously, that wasn't really possible because we didn't have Rising Scale, but with Rising Scale added into the deck now, it's very easy and feasible to pivot into the Fiendsmith stuff and then go Punk combo afterwards. So I think there's synergy there, not in the sense that they bridge into each other. Fiendsmith doesn't get you to Punk cards, obviously, but in the sense that it is very easy to set up the bodies you need for Fiendsmith combo and then still have full Punk combo afterwards, which I think is very important when you're looking at whether or not Fiendsmith is a good fit as an engine for a deck. But moving into the hand traps now. Triple copies of Fuelos. I think every deck in the format should be main decking Fuelos. It's the most effective Charmy. It's going to hit the most decks in the format currently. And then double copies of Perulia. I've kind of shifted my Charmy philosophy as I've seen the meta evolve for this format. I previously was main decking Meows, and I still do in some other decks, but in this deck where we do have a little bit limited hand trap space, I feel like Perulia, again, it's going to hit more decks widely than Meows, and I would rather sideboard for Meows for the specific matchups like Malice and Orcus, where it's more powerful. Then for other hand traps, triple Droll and Lockbird. If you've watched any of my other profiles, you know I've mentioned before, we need power hand traps in a format like this. Charmies that are going to either stop your opponent from playing or punish them for playing into a Charmy and give you everything you need to break a board. Droll and Lockbird, which is just going to shut down a deck like Mitsurugi, Ryziel. Very powerful. And then for some other hand traps, double Ash Blossom. Again, a card I would like to have at 3 if I bump the deck count up. The 41st and possibly 42nd card would probably be a 3rd Ash Blossom and then the 3rd Ogre Dance. But I think 2 is fine. Not as powerful this format as she has been. There's a lot of hands where you can Ash Blossom your opponent and they'll still go full combo. But sometimes she does stop combo. So she is still good. And then also she is a good counter to getting Fuad yourself. Fuad is the Charmy that hurts this deck the most. Perulia, whatever, you're going to give them 1 or 2 draws, Meows. If you choose not to go through the Fiendsmith stuff, you don't have to give them any draws, maybe 1. And if you do go through Fiendsmith, you can still only give them 2, maybe 3 at most. But Fuelos can hurt, so Ash Blossom's good for that as well. Double copies of Nibiru. This is just another one of those power hand traps that we can draw into off of a Fuelos or Perulia to really punish our opponent for choosing to try to build a board. And then for the last hand trap, 1 Ghost Ogre. It's searchable off of our Jam Dragon, which is why she's in here. Just being able to go combo and grab a hand trap as part of your natural combo is great. And she can catch people off guard as well if you hard open her. And having to play around her for your opponent, depending on the deck, can put them in some awkward situations sometimes. But that is it for the hand traps. Moving into the spells. Triple copies of Emergency Teleport. So glad to have this card at 3. It's just 3 more extenders for us. Again, being able to play past our normal summon, passive disruption on our normal summon is great. And this is one of the cards that helps us get into the Fiendsmith combo, like I mentioned. And then one copy of the field spell. It's all you need. It's searchable off of Wagon. If it gets destroyed, you can still play fine. If you get drolled, you don't need the draws. So it's not an integral part of your combo. It's not needed to set up full combo. But the combos where you do resolve field spell for an additional 2 draws are that much more powerful, especially when you're drawing into hand trap. So it's a great card. We definitely want it in the deck, but it's not something that you need multiple copies of because it's not really something you want to open. You do want to get that +1 by searching it off of Wagon. One Fiendsmith Tract for the search. And then we have one Called By, one Talents. I just love both these cards in main decks with this format. Having the Talents, yes, it's at 1 now, but it's so punishing when you open it, when your opponent does try to hand trap you, especially now that, because it's at 1, it's not really correct to play around Talents in a lot of cases because it's at 1. You better off in a lot of cases using the hand trap, if you're the opponent or on the defensive, to disrupt your opponent and just hope we don't have that one copy of Talents. But when you have it, it's so punishing. Being able to look at your opponent's hand potentially and then full combo, draw 2 cards, whatever you need to do. And then Called By, again, we're a little bit weak to Fua. We don't love Droll. Yes, we can play around it or through it, but having it for Droll can still be nice. Overall, 2 power spells. And then the last card in the main deck, one copy of Paradise. It's Paradise, you're playing Fiendsmith Engine. That does it for the main deck. Like I said, flat 40 cards. Moving into the extra deck, starting with the links. One Salamangreat Almirage. This is just what we can link our Zeaman into after we normal summon her. It is important to remember, Almirage requires a normal summon. So if we emergency teleport out the Zeaman or summon her off a Foxy Tune, we cannot link her into the Almirage. That's when we have to have another monster to go into like Moon or something like that, SP, whatever the case may be. But being able to normal summon Zeaman, search for scale, and then link into the Almirage is great. And one copy of Requiem for the Fiendsmith Engine. For the Link 2s, we have the Closed Heaven for our bridge into Fiendsmith, like you heard me mention. One copy of Sequence. And for a non-Fiendsmith Link 2, one copy of SP Little Knight, especially because we do play the Almirage, just being able to go Zeaman into Almirage plus any other monster into SP to get that banish effect is great. SP is still a very flexible and versatile card. For the one Link 3, one copy of Agnum Day helps us OTK much more easily, gets us to higher damage thresholds, and it's a card I like to include whenever I am including the Fiendsmith Engine. That does it for the links. Moving into the synchros. One copy of Jam Dragon Drive. This is the card that's going to search as Ghost Ogre, and just overall a great level 8 synchro. Typically what we're going to be going into during our combo. For level 11s, one copy of Amazing Dragon. Just the fact that this is typically a bounce 2 to 3 on your opponent's turn is great. And also the ability to summon back, now that we do have a new Exceed that I'll go over in a minute, being able to sometimes just synchro into this on your turn, use the effect to summon back another body, and then just overlay the Exceed on top of the Amazing Dragon is nice. One copy of Psychic and Punisher. This card wins games. We're paying a lot of life points, obviously, it's what punks do. And being able to just put the Psychic and Punisher on board so easily is great. This is a card that still catches people off guard. It's really hard for them to play around because they can use up all their disruptions. And then all you need is a level 8 and a level 3. You just put out Psychic and Punisher and win the game in a lot of cases. And then a newer card, one copy of Jiraishin, the Cursed Thunder Deity. This is a Psychic level 11, so it synergizes with the deck. Just an option that we can go into when we do get disrupted at certain points. Maybe you're not going to get into full board or full combo. Ending on a Jiraishin is still a great disruption. It's either a Harpy's Fiber Duster or a Raigeki, which is great. So it is a good card. It's more of a utility slot. One thing I have considered is potentially removing this for a Dragite, because we can make the Dragite very easily at that level 8 spot, and having a spell negate for something against something like Mitsurugi or Malice for a field spell is powerful. So if you don't like Duration, consider a Adamancipator Risen Dragite for this slot. Then for the Exceeds, 1 Caesar for the Fiendsmith line. Again, this is insulating us from Nib. If I can pick this card up. And then for the other Exceeds, the brand new Jam Fever. This card is great. Just being a rank 8 that we can hard make with 2 level 8s very easily in the deck, but also the ability to just Exceed summon it on top of a Punk Synchro or Fusion. Like I said, you can go into Amazing Dragon. A lot of cases what I'll do is overlay this either on top of my Jam Dragon or use Deer Note to revive Carp and then overlay this on top of Carp, whatever you want to do. And it has 2 other effects other than the summoning condition. One, you can pay 600 life points to attach a material, draw a card. Great, especially if you have a field spell up and get draw 2 off of it. That's Pot of Greed, which is amazing. Or you can, if you have a level 3 Psychic in Graveyard, which we should always, it can detach a material. When your opponent activates a monster effect, detach a material, negate, and destroy. So again, just another point of interaction. This can be Nib insulation. A lot of times with a deck like Punk, your opponent's not going to be familiar with their combo lines, so they may try to hold out Nib until they think you've got your inboard set up, and then being able to, again, just make Jam Dragon Drive, and then immediately Exceed this on top of the Jam Dragon Drive, and now you've shut off the Nib. Overall, just an extremely powerful card. Sometimes I will hard make this with 2 level 8s, so that I can get the draw on my turn, and then also still have the negate set up. Just want to keep in mind the game state and decide what's best. Typically, you're going to use 1 material, but there are times where it's correct to hard make it with 2 materials. And then for the fusions, 1 copy of Rising Carp. Of course, it's part of the Punk engine, so we're going to have it here. 1 copy of Necroquip to get us into Caesar. And for the last card, of course, 1 copy of Desiree. It's kind of the alternative Fiendsmith line. Typically when I'm playing, I go Caesar on turn 1 and then leave Desiree for the follow-up turns, but overall a great card. And that wraps it up for your deck profile. Let me know what y'all think about Punk this format. From what I understand, it did actually just win a regional this past weekend, so it's definitely performing. This build, personally, I took to a double box tournament over the weekend, got 2nd place, only losing to Mitsurugi Raziel, and I've been playing this deck on Master Duel for several weeks now. Overall, it's a very fun deck. Again, like I said at the intro, I love the type of interactions that it puts up, but let me know in the comments what y'all's preferred build of Punk is. Do you think I'm right with the Fiendsmith engine? I've seen people talk about Horus, Bitsteel, or maybe Pure. Maybe you think that with the new support, the deck can just play Pure with additional hand traps and non-engine. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Don't forget to keep an eye on the channel for more Battles of Legend content coming out all the way up to Duelist Advance. And if you enjoyed the video, if you enjoy the content, like and subscribe for more of it. Really appreciate the viewing. And until next time, I'm Teague with Battle City Games.